Hey good people, just a week ago Krishna and I became parents for the first time, and what that really made me realize was that the importance of rites of passage, right? We go through phases all of our life, and the transition from going from being a child to adolescence, and then from adolescence to being a full grown adult, and to becoming an old man, and to cross the threshold and die, and also to crush the threshold and be born, and to crush the threshold and become a parent. It's just such a radically different existence that we're getting used to now, but something happens in the deep layer of our psyche when it is that we make such a radical shift, that it's so important to go through some kind of ceremony that brings your whole being into coherence with this new way of being. And it's something that I think is really deeply lost in our society today, to have rites of passages and to do ceremony as a way to prepare ourselves, to prepare our youth, to prepare our adults to die, to prepare everybody for what's coming ahead in life. It's something that Joseph Campbell has been writing extensively about, and today we just want to use this experience we had of having a sacred ceremonial birth to explain and dive into the topic of the importance of rites of passage and what that means for our society. And for us as people, how we can bring that back into our lives. So without further ado, I just want to welcome Krishna, and she works privately as a birth worker and as a doula, and therefore has a lot of experience with women that has both birthed within the system and at home and free birthed. So I'm sure that besides us having the experience of having a sacred ceremonial birth, Krishna will have a lot of experience to draw on and parallels to take from all of these women she has worked with and talked to. So, as always, I really want to encourage you to throw your thoughts down in the comment box. I'm super excited to hear what you guys think of the discussion we are having and how we can meet each other outside of this video format and then continue this discussion, because as always, my video is about exploring how we can live a more wholesome, a more holistic, a more integral life. So please do that. Write your thoughts down in the comments and we'll continue this discussion down there. So welcome, Krishna, my beautiful, lovely, strong woman.
Well, thank you for inviting me to have a conversation with you. We've had multiple conversations about this, obviously, in the last 7 days, but just debriefing and finding out deeper layers of this crazy, crazy experience. I think we'll be doing for the rest of our lives. At least I know that I will be processing.
So maybe first off, you can explain just why you are participating in this interview. Why is this topic something you want to share your thoughts on?
Mainly because I had an epic experience. It was the grandest experience of my life so far. I want to keep uncovering the layers of it. I want to keep processing what it was, what I felt, what I thought, how it went down, because I was one and now I am another. That's what happened. A full transformation. So the more that we can share our stories, and both good and bad per se, but just share our stories, the more that other women and men can learn from this, and hopefully strive for something as epic as what we had.
Something true to them.
In their own, of course, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, okay, so I think the right way to do this is to show you guys the birth video, and it's yeah,
It's intense.
it's intense. It's super intense, and it's very vulnerable to share it. But as you said, our whole intent with sharing this is to hopefully inspire, because I have seen my family, they watch this video and like the light bulb moment of, my granddad and his girlfriend now, and like my mother, and like the light bulb moment of these elderly women thinking back at their birth and then being like, wow, I didn't know that this existed. And then realizing maybe that, birth was not something they did, it's something that just happened to them, and just, as you say, uncovering this trauma, this thing that is birth is really our intent here. So I think we should show you guys the video, and then we're gonna come back and discuss it.
Lower your volume a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, la luz. Oh, la luz. Oh, la luz. Sí. Aquí estoy. It's a boy.
Alright, so welcome back. You saw the video, and I want to just start out with a quote by Joseph Campbell, and I could have well just have, reiterated what you said just before, because it's really what you're saying. He says here. So the quote goes, "The function of ritual, as I understand it, is to give form to human life, not in the way of a mere surface arrangement, but in depth. We must lose who we once been so that we can give birth to who life wants us to be." And that's exactly what you said, that you were one then and now you are someone else. And I feel the same within me, and you're right, like uncovering what is that, because I'm still the same physically, but in my depth something has changed.
I thought about it today actually, because I said the phrase, "his birth was my rebirth," and I was thinking about what that, if there were any more layers to that, and why that phrase came to my mind. And I realized that, of course, I was reborn. There was a new me being born, but that new me was always in me also. It was always latent, waiting. It was always this potential, within my bones, within my cells, to exist. So of course I'm new, but I'm also the kind of new that was always there, waiting to happen. Should I choose this?
Okay, so in this becoming of a parent, what is the significance of having this ceremony that is birth?
There's so many consequences of all the choices that I've taken since conception. Like throughout pregnancy, obviously pregnancy comes with millions of choices. You have to choose what kind of prenatal care. What does that even mean? Where do you go? Do you go to a midwife? Do you go to a hospital? Do you go to your friend? Do you go to a traditional birth worker? What do you say yes to? What do you say no to when you're saying yes to something? What is care, right? What kind of testing? What kind of methods of trying to figure out information from your pregnancy? Or will you do ritual, ceremony, nourishment, community? Will you do both? Will you focus on nutrition? Will you focus on the roller coaster of emotions and fears and doubts and stories and all these programming that is so deep within both men and women regarding birth?
Right, and that's really my focus here, is that we do have a choice. We always have a choice. And right now, not to go too much against, the system or whatever, but right now we are just in a time where a lot of people are seeking alternative information out there, because what comes out from the mainstream narrative is just not serving a lot of people, right? Like we have such a rapid incline in C-sections talking about birth that just shouldn't happen. And we have so a radical incline in all sorts of chronic illnesses and all of this. So a lot of people are taking the matter of their nutrition into their own hand, right? They don't go and ask their medical doctor what to eat. But with birth, we are not there quite yet. A lot of people still just choose, to even get scheduled a C-section. And it's a choice. It's a choice. You might do it, because you think it's the safest. But what are the consequences of, not having a sacred birth? Well, I mean, birth probably is always sacred, but what the rites change, right? The rites, as I mentioned before, the rites go from being candlelight and calm and ease and peace. And I mean, I also just think this little being is so incredibly peaceful. He's so peaceful. And I think that also has something to do with him laying on your chest from the moment he came out of you and being taken out by the mother herself. It was very clear as soon as I laid my hands on him, he screamed up, like, because imagine, being within the womb of the mother for what is eternity for him, and then coming out and then suddenly being grabbed by a whole other impulse system, which is another person than the mother.
I think women are discovering a whole new world within birth. I think it's very much a happening awakening. Some people would call it movement, but it's a movement of realization. It's an awakening that all this that we have created within the apparatus of medical surveillance, testing, protocol, etc., is an absolute disservice to women and babies. It's absolutely rooted in fear of birth. It is not evidence-based, and it is robbing of an experience. And women are waking up to this and choosing something different. Every day I see it.
That experience that it is robbing you from, like, is that the rite of passage into parenthood?
I don't think that it robs you necessarily of the rite of passage into parenthood, or at least I wouldn't choose those words. I would be very careful, because I think that the codes of motherhood and fatherhood are so strong and so embedded in every part of us that even with these traumatic birthing experiences, people still bond with their babies. People still are able to breastfeed. There's cases of, even like in the most horrendous conditions, in times of war, women can still breastfeed and parents can still become attached and love their kids and everything. But this happens despite this what I would call abuse by the system. Not this all these good things happen despite the interruptions, is how I would put it. And well, I only have had one experience myself. I have spoken to many women who have had radically different experiences than mine. I would say that for me, it's so clear that when you don't break the nature codes, when you don't go against the way of the way of nature, the way that this whole thing works, everything flows positively. I've had such a good recovery. I mean, 1 week ago, I was laying here, literally in that corner, and screaming my throat off. And I feel so great. I feel so great. I feel high energy. He's doing so great. My milk is flowing. His latch is perfect. I yeah, it's just, to me in my personal experience, again, it's very clear that when you go with the flow of how things are in nature,
Mm.
things seem to work
Mm-hmm.
much better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the whole, I like the word you use, code, right? It's the code that we have to rewrite. Right now we are living this default code that is that nature is a place of scarcity, and you need to, you know, with effort and with might and with human power, you need to intervene and force outcomes so that we can all, you know, be here, so that we can extract enough nutrients and foods and oil and all of these things from the planet, so that, you know, and we have to watch out that we don't overpopulate, and we can only have X amounts of this and Y of that, and then the code from the Indians that were when the white men came, that they just had this code that was that nature is a place of abundance, and if you just work with the ways of nature, nature will always provide, and
Yeah,
that's
you
what
talk
we've
about it
experienced.
you talk about it extensively in in another light, but we talk about the same things basically.
Mm.
I just apply it in my work with women to birth, but we talk about this exact same things of realizing that all is given, all is perfect already, and everything we invent intellectually to try to fix or manipulate or modify or save, turns out that the grand vast majority of the times we are just interrupting what was already perfect and creating the problem ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that this happens physically in what we are talking about, like the biological processes, and you know, you recovering so fast in this. But I think that it also happens on a spiritual layer. Joseph Campbell said something else, that was, he made a comment on what the loss of these ceremony and these rites of passages has been for our civilization. And I don't remember the exact quote, but what he was getting at was that this plays a huge part in our neurosis, you know, like our psychological fuss, and you know, issues with developing all of these shadows, right, repressed emotions, and that boils up to the surface and makes us neurotic, and in some cases psychotic, right?
I can totally see that. I can totally see how that applies to birth as well. But it's when you when you attempt to extract the sacred out of something that it's impossible to control and measure. I was writing about this earlier today, like the way the industrial obstetrical model of birth views birth is as this like progressive, linear, measurable path, right? When birth is, well, you saw it firsthand. It's a freaking spiral. It's there's nothing to measure or yeah,
No, and I saw
assess, progress,
yeah,
etc. And I just want to say that when you do this, you are considering the human body as some sort of machinery, and we're not. We're not. We're simply not.
no. No, it was very clear to see how your body, like how I saw it, was that your body was just opening itself up, right? Like have always heard, you know, then you get a contraction and then you have to push. Contraction, push, contraction, push, and that whole thing. And what I saw with you was just that, like, you let the contraction roll over you, and you were not pushing at all. You were like throwing yourself from one side to the other. And for me, it seemed like the contractions worked to just open your body up. And then when you felt that his head was there, then the natural urge to push was there, right? Or how?
It's so strange. Yeah, it's so strange. I don't know what exact words to choose actually, because first of all, I would never call them contractions. I didn't feel as people described your uterus physically contracting, pushing down your baby type thing. That's not at all how it felt for me. It if anything, I wouldn't even call them rushes or surges or anything like that. I would maybe call them expansions, because just everything feels like it's opening up my experience. But yeah, there was definitely absolutely no clear path of progression. It just started and it was like boom, 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 boom. You know, this of like time between contractions being first 10 minutes, 5 minutes, we didn't have that. I didn't have that. And there was no like also like clear increase in intensity. It was like from the get-go, like boom, boom, boom. And when I felt his head, when I was exhausted obviously, and it occurred to me to put my hand inside myself, and I felt his head, and then I kind of realized that what I had been doing already was pushing, but not consciously. It was like my body was pushing everything out. You know, it felt like my entire insides wanted to come out. Oh, I know it sounds really grotesque, but it just like felt like everything had to come out type thing. But in that moment, I didn't rationalize it as like, I am pushing, or my body is pushing, you know. But now looking back, I think that's what was happening. I think my body was pushing already my baby out. I just want to say that the way that you held the space was exactly what I needed. And I didn't need you to do anything but what you did, to sit there and pray and meditate and connect with our baby, and you know, be available to me, but without wanting to fix or save me or do anything.
And the urge was there. The urge
I know,
was
probably.
there.
I mean,
should I squeeze your hips? Should I like, yeah. The urge was there, but yeah, I also felt it.
And I had all these plans again, like, it would be so nice if maybe you were in the pool with me, or maybe you massaged me, or maybe we hugged or kissed or la la la. But in the moment, like, all those plans had to be thrown out the window, because that was not what I needed in the moment. No, it was just for you to do exactly as you did, to sit and look at me.
And again, like, what a rite of passage into parenthood, right? Because we will have so many moments where you won't have the energy to actually tell me what to do for you, but I just need to tune into what's happening in our little bubble and then fill that part that I need to fill.
Yeah. And just like the power of presence is also so transformational, because
yeah, definitely,
for you to have tuned in to just be present and just sit on your hands, just look at me and just be there, and not do, not fix, not act, is part of the transformation. You know, it made everything, I don't know, it just, you tuned into exactly what we required in the moment. And it was so lovely.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was. And I think it just bumps into my head that you can have this rite of passage in the first days of receiving your baby at the hospital and coming home and like having that connection with your baby and just that wonder. I think you can have this, you know, rite of passage into parenthood, but it definitely was a very potent ceremony that we held.
Just to your last point there, of course we can create our own ceremonies and rites of passage, and sometimes we realize that for whatever reason the experience that we have had in these major life events maybe was not exactly what we know we wanted or deserved, but here we are every day. All of us have the opportunity to choose us every day, and that's the work that we're doing, choosing us, choosing that this life is sacred, and Just that.
Yeah. Choosing who we want to be in each and every moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe as a closing little closing on our rite of passage talk here. We have actually written down in a book, we have written down the rites that we want to do with Lorenzo and with all of the kids to come. And I just think that it's really something that I will invite everybody to think about the possibility of having these rites of passages with your kids. And if this is something you want me to dive deeper into in another video, explaining exactly what kind of rites we are imagining and at what age group that would happen, then please write that down in the comment and I'll make sure to make some content on that. And lastly, I just want to say thanks, my love. Thank you for choosing to free birth, to make this ceremony, and for giving me that experience, for having that ceremony with you, because it was really something.
Birth is so healing.
Yeah.
For men, for women, for babies. Birth is so healing.
And then, of course, to you out there, if you have any questions about, or resources that you need, any questions about how to do this, any contact information, you need a doula, you need a midwife, or anyone to talk to, then please also just mention that down in the comments, and I'll send that information right over to you. So lots of resources, a lot of great people to work with when it's regarding birth, no matter where you are in this world. So love and chi.